do-it-yourself is all around us and changing our lives. But how can companies and large corporations adapt and embrace this do-it-yourself movement? That's an interesting question. First, let's talk a little bit about the do-it-yourself movement. Do-it-yourself has always been and will always be. It's actually not the do-it-yourself that is dangerous for the corporation. What corporations need to take more attention, to pay more attention to, is the do-it-together. It's people sharing and collaborating to build new products, to solve problems, and to have fun. So, in this room, who has read the book from David Lang? David Lang, in this book, explained his adventures of becoming a maker. It all started when he was laid out, and he decided to do something completely new. He was reading the Make magazine, and contacted them and said, hey, I want to become a maker, and starting blogging about that. But again, he didn't know where to start. So he started meeting and interviewing a few makers around, and people who were making things tangible for other people. By interviewing them, he realized that the most important thing was not the products that they were creating, but it was the passion and the experience that these adventures were creating for them. So David, one day at the library, heard about a story about a treasure that was in an underwater cave. He decided to go after it. And he met with a few other people and discovered that many have tried to retrieve that treasure, but never succeeded. By speaking with other people, he found other people that had the passion to go and solve that problem. And he created an open rove community, which is a remotely operated underwater rover. By doing that, he had an amazingly successful Kickstarter campaign, a lot of people helping him doing it, and now you can find open ROVs all around the world in 50 countries being operated for exploration and adventure. What David's point is that you can bring people together and they will solve the problem innovating with passion. So how does that relate to companies all around the world, and how can companies take lessons of that? I've been very fortunate to be on the road to many maker fairs around the world. And one day, the CEO of a very large tech company came to a maker fair. His first experience was with the Maker Faire Bay Area. He walks in, and the first thing he sees are giant driving cupcakes. And then he continue walking in there, and he sees people doing large bubbles, soap bubbles. And finally, he ends up watching an amazing show, which is a giant life-size mousetrap that drops a 400-pound safe on top of a car at the end of the chain reaction. A lot of executives in the world that are working for large companies would have only one word in their mind. It's a big circus. But the CEO came to me, and I took him to meet my friend Ryan Kunde. Ryan is a winemaker, and you can imagine that as a French person, I really like wine. But Ryan also builds drones, and I really like drones. And he does that with his community of makers around him. What's interesting, he flies the drone above the vineyard and captures pictures. From those pictures, he's able to extract some information about the grapes, where to water more, where to water less, maybe find out if some part of the vineyard is sick and what they need to do about that. The CEO found that very interesting. He spoke to him for about 20 minutes. After those 20 minutes, we walked away from the booth, and he talked to me and said, Omar, I have a large group of engineers that is trying to come up with a commercial version of what Ryan had created. And I told him, the main difference between Ryan and his do-it community and your large group of engineers is that Brian innovates with passion. They go here and they have a group of passionate people that are not afraid of roadblocks, and if they find a roadblock, they're not afraid of taking another route, right? So you start to see that innovation and passion is all that makes this maker movement and all the people that are excited about it, the do-it-yourself communities. So at some point of time, I decided, let's group those two words together and create the innovation. So how can company bring back innovation in their day-to-day operations? Well, innovation has been at the start of most of the companies around the world. They all started by passionate innovators that wanted to create a product or solve a problem. So in my company at Trimble, we start to do that. We go to a lot of maker fairs for a lot of inspiration. But I'm not going to talk about my company. I'm going to talk about Intel. And for that, let me introduce my friend, Joey Huddy. Joey is a little maker. He's a great maker. He does a lot of electronic boards for Arduinos. He has, but he's mainly famous for one thing, his extreme marshmallow air cannon. And his extreme marshmallow air cannon got him into the White House Science Fair. As you can imagine, setting up an extreme air cannon in the White House, Secret Service has a few words to talk to you. Whatever happened, do not shoot that thing. Whatever happened, do not shoot that thing. They made it very clear for Joy, right? So Joy was, 13 or 14 at the time, kind of scared about that, but that was okay. President Obama came in, started touring the exhibits, going from booth to booth, and then he comes to Joy. Comes to Joy and he asks, oh, what is this? It's an extreme marshmallow air cannon. Awesome, shoot it! Joey looks at the Secret Service and said, President's order, sorry. Started to aim somewhere where nobody was, shoot the cannon, and boom, the marshmallow goes in the air, and I think they had to replace the curtain over there. Plus, that created one of the greatest pictures of President Obama on the internet. Joey has evolved a lot. He's now 17. He's done a lot of electronics in there. And he actually have been hired by the CEO of Intel to work on the wearable device strategy for Intel. And Intel was at the Maker Fair in the Bay Area last week, and they had a bunch of makers, the same as Joey, doing all these things for Intel. And here is Joey with the CEO of Intel on stage at the last CES. So what I invite all the companies around the world to do is to forget innovation and move to innovation.